temples all over the place, but most of our early leaders were Freemasons. And I think out of all of our presidents, about 15 of them reported being Freemasons. So it's not some big secret that people in our government belong to a lodge. It's not a big secret. I don't think it has anything to do with Satan. It's just using all of this stuff we're about to talk about in the podcast to bring in power. Now, whether that person is good or evil, that's up for the universe to decide. But it is all about using power. And that is what every religion is about.
Huh. Yeah.
And,
I like that.
Symbols across advertising, same thing. All using ancient symbols. You think of the Nike symbol, the Nikes, the goddess Nike. So all the symbols that I've kind of mentioned, and even like if you look at our flag with the stars and the stripes, all of that is used to charge, to create power. However they wanted to create the country, where the direction they wanted it to go, what they wanted to bring into this new place called America. And that is the point of all this esoteric meaning behind it. Even the calculations of the obelisk, they have to mean something because then they can charge it and they can have power.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I kind of dived into relates very much to places of power, and specifically to the location itself and what the energy within the earth has to bring to a certain location. So I dug down into some of our old mate Walter Bosley's work. Specifically, this comes from his book Latitude 33, Key to the Kingdom. Anyway, it's all about his research of Disneyland.
Woo!
So, right. So I thought it was pretty perfect.
Don't need a mask to go there.
Oh, really? That seems that seems wrong. So anyway, it was some really fascinating reading. Not overly dark, which is different from me.
Oh.
So Bosley's all about. So if you've read any of his work, he's big on the telluric current, right? Which is this natural energy grid that kind of runs through the Earth. It's what telegraph poles and railroads and all sorts of places are kind of built across, because it kind of gives these things a bunch of energy, as well as electricity and stuff. But so he goes into the idea of Disneyland because it was like a big part of his childhood. He grew up in Southern California there, and he used to ride the carousel a bunch with a group of friends. And he talks about the carousel being a specific place within Disneyland that was the central power node where a bunch of these telluric lines sort of crossed.
Well, it's a natural DC current. Like the telluric lines create that DC current.
Right. So he goes into a little bit about Walt Disney when he and his brother Roy, who when they first started looking for a place to build Disneyland, when they first sort of came up with the idea that they wanted to build this huge kingdom area. And it was interesting, the whole kingdom idea as well, that he was always so enamored with this castle where he was a ruler, and we'll kind of get back to that in a little bit. But the person, I know we all want a castle, Melissa. So he found the expertise of a man named Cornelius Vanderbilt Wood, C.V. Wood. And this guy was a aerospace engineer, so he fucks. And
totally fucks.
But after he was kind of working as an aerospace engineer, he went and worked for a little place called SRI, the Stanford Research Institute, with where Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff did all their crazy experiments with the mind and remote viewing and all that sort of fun stuff. So this guy Wood, C.V. Wood, he was an interesting guy. He did a lot of work with esoteric kind of research, and he actually developed with another guy called Tom Swift, who was like this crazy eccentric billionaire who likes to put a bunch of money in behind all these radical things like searching for Bigfoot and the Yeti and psychic phenomena.
Oh, he's my guy.
We need this guy. Where are you? He's still alive?
I need wood. I need more wood. Yeah.
You need more wood in your life. Well, this guy's name was Swift. But,
bad joke.
yeah. I appreciated it. I like where you're going with it. Anyway, so he started this place with this Tom Swift. CV Wood and him started this place called the Mind Science Foundation. And they did a whole bunch of crazy esoteric research. Anyway, so Wood left SRI after he was headhunted by the Disney brothers to work exclusively on this Disneyland project. He was just all in. He was so enamored by the project, and they sort of chose a few different places where they thought Disneyland might be really great, but they, obviously landed on Anaheim, and where there was a huge outcrop of was it orange trees back in the day, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they also mentioned that one of the places they were looking was San Bernardino.
Ah.
And another interesting place of power from the Empire of the Wheel stories, which is also orange trees. So I don't know what the connection is there, but anyway.
Well, I think it's the telluric lines underneath, but
could
the orange trees grow there.
But, vitamin C is good too, right? Yeah. Idiot. Anyway, so they chose Anaheim specifically for this huge convergence of telluric current that runs through the area. Okay, so specifically the carousel was this, the center of this power, and there was a lot of esoteric imagery all around the place. He mentions that there's a caduceus in the middle of the carousel. Mm-hmm. And
what does that look like? What's a caduceus?
The caduceus is the medical symbol, the two snakes that wrap around the pole in the center. Yeah.
So it's basically symbolizing, if it's spinning, like the two lines of the Kundalini spinning around each other constantly.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So they knew what they were doing apparently when they created it here, and it wasn't anything negative or nefarious, but it really was to generate this energy of this place being, the happiest place on earth. So when you go there, you're imbibed with this feeling of positiveness and happiness and where do I throw my money? Take all my money.
So happy.
Yeah. Which I guess is kind of, we'll get into later with Josh, the whole idea of imbuing symbols with power and wanting to buy that and the whole marketing and business behind all that sort of stuff. But anyway, so I didn't go too much further into it because I think it's so deep. This whole topic it's a whole podcast in and of itself. But he kind of mentions a couple of other things. After I kind of looked into the Disneyland thing, I actually, just getting back to the carousel. Have you guys seen the film? It's called Now You See Me. It's about 4 magicians who are planned this huge heist.
No.
Dave Franco was in it. Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson. Yeah, it was an alright film, but it has this bizarre ending where the 4 main characters, who are all magicians, who refer to themselves as the 4 Horsemen, are recruited into this secret society of magicians who call themselves the Eye, and they have the symbol of the Eye of Ra as their symbol. So super esoteric all of a sudden. But the end of the film, they're all kind of recruited into this secret society. And if you remember the end of the film, I don't think there's any spoilers. I won't give you any spoilers. But basically, they all are recruited into this place, and they are talking to the head guy of this secret society, and they hop on a carousel that's in the middle of Central Park. And this is kind of their initiation into the secret society, and the carousel starts spinning and they all disappear because magic.
Ooh.
But I just thought it was an interesting connection. There must be some sort of power around, because everything else, there was a whole lot of esoteric symbolism in the film as well.
Maybe it's considering it's creating a vortex.
Maybe like it's just like if you imagine a cross section of a whole bunch of telluric current or whatever earth energies beneath this thing, and it's just kind of charging up through this spinning wheel of people who are either happy or all these different emotions or whatever. It makes sense that it would be this convergence of power. I don't know. So anyway, after this, I kind of listened to Bosley talk about a few different other things, like places of power, where other anomalous things kind of go on. Because he has this kind of I guess you could say it's kind of a ghost story with an encounter with a guy who he met after he was riding the carousel. So someone brought up to him, what about Skinwalker Ranch? Is that on current? He said, yeah. He looked it up on the map that who's his offsider, Seshari, who does these whole maps of telluric current that runs through the country. So it does kind of line up with Skinwalker Ranch. It does have a bunch of telluric current running through there. So I wonder if it does kind of create these portal areas, maybe like the window areas we talk about. And even he talks. Someone asked him about Missing 411, David Paulides. And he said his Seshari's map of the telluric current does line up with David Paulides' missing people throughout the map too, which is kind of interesting as well. It's funny. He has this story about when he talked to David Paulides. And he said, you know what? I'll just say it. The guy was a real rude jerk. So he was like, okay. He didn't want to share any of his info. So I think the takeaway from this is that it does seem to be there are places, locations where there is this energy naturally built into the earth, and you can sort of direct your intention into this. It doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be bad, whatever it is. It does kind of channel this energy, and you can kind of use it in your own way to get your whatever you want, whatever your desires or whatever. If you want to build a castle, which is interesting about Disney. Actually, just as a side note, just to finish off, there was a little place in Disney World, Florida, right by there, called Celebration, Florida, where I think he tried it. It was the whole Epcot idea. I forgot what Epcot stands for, but it means like a place of the future kind of thing, this kind of utopian town that he wanted to build. And so they actually tried to build this place in Florida. It's called Celebration, Florida. It still exists. Okay. It's still a place. But it's like, apparently it's like this really creepy Truman Show-esque place where there's like constantly Christmas music playing through the town, and it's like this shiny veneer of like a wholesome American town, but there's like this, there's always creepy stuff happening beneath the surface, and it feels like everyone's like trying to smile, really happy all the time, and it just has this really odd vibe to it. Apparently, I've never been there, so I was reading stuff about it. But apparently, the way that Disney bought the town is he set up all these front companies and purchased all the land around this area. And basically was trying to set himself up as this kind of this ruler of this town. Like he set up his own rules, his own healthcare. He was like such a control freak that he was like had this dream of being his own like king of this town.
Of course, makes sense.
Which is kind of interesting. But anyway, so I think you can charge things with power, man. And I'm going to try it.
You're going to try it? Well, I mean, just to go back to what's happening to the building of our country, it's the same thing. I mean, we didn't talk about all the telluric lines or the ley lines underneath Washington, D.C., but they're using symbols in areas where they know that they can draw power. It's the same thing with a business, building Disneyland and a spot where they can grab power. So it's all about the invisible force and the symbols used around you that you don't even know it's happening. You're just like super happy in Disneyland and you're super patriotic in Washington, D.C. Or maybe not. Right, I don't know. However you're feeling.
It does seem like it's, for the most part, used to manipulate people or, coerce them into thinking a certain way, which is not... It doesn't sound good. I don't know.
Well, I think like everything, if you think about building our country, I don't think it was about manipulating people. I think it really is about getting the right symbols together so that they could have power.
Right.
And they could build a great country. And the same thing with Walt Disney. He wanted to make a fun place.